Hello, I'm Pioneer staff reporter Jonathan Epley. The Pioneer is continuing its city election coverage by interviewing the 4 candidates running for city commissioner. Today I'm joined by candidate Tom Hogenson, thanks for being here, and the Pioneer editor-in-chief Dave Clark. Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself. What governmental experience do you have? What do you do for a living?
What I do for a living, I'm a registered nurse by training. I'm the executive director of the Mecosta County Medical Center Foundation and also the hospital's community relations director. As far as governmental experience, I served 8 years as a city commissioner prior to this, and have served the last 2 years on the Charter Revision Commission for the city.
What is the biggest asset that you have that you feel will be most beneficial to the commission if you're elected?
Actually, I think probably the ability to listen and to concentrate the insight of other people as well as my own, and a good deal of experience that I think helps provide some stability and additional insight in informing the decisions that are made by the commission.
Tom, as city commissioner, I'm sure that you've had the opportunity to hear from constituents about city services. Usually when those services have not been provided in a satisfactory manner. Can you give us an example of a city service that you have received that was less than satisfactory? And also, if you could talk about a city service that you feel does an excellent job serving constituents.
I actually think that most of the city services are very well done. I don't go looking for negatives. I think everybody can find something in a constellation of features that they don't like, whether you're talking about a retail establishment, a hospital, a governmental unit, the armed forces. Everybody has something that they like to don't like, and everybody has something that they enjoy. If I were to pick on something where the city could improve, I would say it is in the quality of some of the street and road surface infrastructure with regard to walkability, especially for handicapped people, cyclists, and people who are forced to use other than their own motorized personal transportation. I think we could be at least looking at design and coming up with a transport plan that's in the 21st century and acknowledges the needs of all the people that need to use the city. And if I were to pick, I guess, one thing that we ought to work on, that would be it. I think we receive exceptional police and fire service here for a town our size. The capability generated by the staff, both in police and fire, are excellent. In fact, I think one of the critical issues is obtaining the best possible replacement for Frank West, who's done an admirable job as public safety director. I think that water and sewer has been a pretty good accomplishment here, particularly redoing the sewage treatment facility. That was a hard decision to make, to spend that amount of money. It was necessary. It was carried out in fine fashion, and I think is serving the community well.
Tom, you served on the commission for 8 years before. What made you decide to run again?
Actually, I really enjoyed it. I kind of missed it, and felt as I talked to people again that about this that it would be something I could still contribute and do for my adopted hometown. I love this place. I think it deserves all the care we can give it, and I'm certainly willing to do my share. If somebody else wants to step up and do as well or better, they're welcome to that, because the more people who care about Big Rapids, the better it's going to be.
Are there any things that you felt didn't get addressed when you were on the commission before that you would like to see discussed this time around, if elected?
I guess if I were to be accused of coming to the commission before with an agenda, it would have been neighborhood services, quality of life, some of the issues that still, I think, need to be under serious consideration today. I think we could do more to encourage everybody who owns and manages property inside the city to demonstrate the best possible stewardship, whether you're talking about someone like me who owns a home in the city, a single-family home, somebody who owns 40 rental units, somebody who's coming here for 4 years to develop their career. All of those people have a stake in the quality of life in Big Rapids, and I think we need to insist that they demonstrate that in the most positive way.
As a follow-up to that question, Tom, we mentioned you served on the commission before. During your time on the commission, you did have some heated discussions with local landlords. From them on the way that they felt they were being treated by city officials, and from the city's point of view, asking them to do some things that may have been challenging. How do you think the relationship has grown, though, between the current landlord association and the city administration? Do you think it's gotten better over the years? Do you think this is a high point, or do you think you've yet to reach that high point?
I think there always needs to be a point of common understanding, and that sort of search for the commonality that allows you to discuss things on an even keel, I think has improved, although I think in the end it's still elusive. I would point out that while some of that commentary between city and landlords was heated, I would, from my perspective, thought most of the heat was coming from the other side of the fence. In response to people being asked to do some common sense things that were in the public interest, and for understandable reasons maybe wish that they could have avoided doing some of that. Certainly understandable, doesn't really change the necessity for insisting on compliance. And on the other hand, compliance should be based on input and feedback from everybody involved, and I think the city manager in particular and the people in neighborhood services have made a concerted effort to create a better, I don't know, sounding board is the right term, but a better way of approaching problems and being able to get things out on the table. Can't really improve something until you can admit that there's room for improvement.
There are two constituencies that the city of Big Rapids very much would like to invite to come to the community, and those are small business owners and families. And understanding that government certainly cannot, move people here, they can certainly make it more attractive, though, to either move to town or start a new business here. Is it the role of city government to do that? And if it is, what are some steps that it can take to make Big Rapids an inviting place to do business and to live?
In a really almost simplistic sense, people want to live in places that are great places to live. So cleaning up the community, making sure the amenities that are there work, making sure that if somebody were to want to develop a business here, that they had plenty of assistance, that they felt welcome, that the infrastructure for business really exists here. Particularly if you're talking about small retail businesses, they need to have someplace to move into. Not too many small retailers come and build a building, so you have to have infrastructure. Public safety is extremely important, the quality of education, the quality of health care. All of those things are important in attracting families and people who employ other people. Because in general, if your employees don't want to live in a community, you're going to have to a more expensive resource in even as simple things as payroll. So having a great place to live, I won't throw any buzzwords at you. The term used to be cool cities. I'm not sure that still applies. It's a little bit passé, but I think we get the idea. It's not too hard to get somebody to move to San Francisco or Traverse City or Honolulu. If people want to live someplace, they will go there. For a small city in the upper Midwest, I think you really have to look hard at what are the drivers for people migrating inward.
Can you think of something that the city did during your tenure, or that they could do in the future to serve one of those constituencies? Either
sure. The downtown development program, I think, has been very successful. We've had a pretty good history of granting personal property abatement to industries that were willing to come in and have a footprint in Big Rapids or maintain a footprint in Big Rapids and keep their employment at full status. I think we've done a pretty good job in general that way. I think schools here are excellent. I don't think the city can do much to augment the schools except to work with them. It's really a community effort, and whenever somebody brings this up, I'm reminded of this whole comment about putting something in a kind of a beer and tacos thing, as if you can either have one or the other one. Most of us want both. We want everything that we can have, to be obviously an equal measure, and we want to have it for nothing and all the wonderful things.
So your platform is beer and tacos.
Yeah, exactly. But the reality is that we can't always have all of that without working at it. And so I think there's a marketing component. I think the city plays a part in that. The media plays a part in that. Featuring what's best about our community, and I'll tell you, the thing that's best about our community is its generosity and its mutuality. So the more we can get that message out, the better we'll be.
Tom, the city recently contracted with a third-party vendor to collect funds from at-fault drivers for city fire and police services at auto accidents. Is the city out of line in seeking those funds?
I don't think the city's out of line. Not every city does this. Many do. I know it was under consideration when I served on the commission before, and for one reason or another, we elected not to do it. There's a cost associated with providing any service, and it's not unreasonable to go to the person most directly involved in occasioning that cost and to see if you can recoup something. And if you and I had an automobile accident in any number of cities in the United States, the same thing might happen. So I don't think we're out of line. Is it something that would be unpopular with some people? It certainly would. It's unpopular with my sister, I can tell you. She's already asked me this question 14 different ways. In her case, what she's asked me is, if you want to attract business to small businesses to Big Rapids, why would you charge somebody for getting in an accident, for instance, in front of my store? Good question. And the reason is it costs money to police that accident. If you, the simile I gave her was an ambulance service. If I'm on a crash out at the freeway, a police officer calls the ambulance, I'm in the ambulance and I wake up halfway to the hospital, I suppose I can say, take me back, I don't want to go. But they can also look at me and say, I think there's implied consent, I think you're out of your head, I'm taking you to the hospital so you don't die. And at some point somebody's got to pay for that. And it's going to be me, it's also going to be the municipality, it's going to be the people who invested in the infrastructure that was there available for me. And I don't think it's unreasonable to at least look at trying to recoup those charges. And I know that that is something that's contested by some insurers, by some individuals. Nonetheless, it's not unreasonable to look at how we apportion cost and see if there's a way of working on that.
That being said, how do you think it will affect the city's reputation? Does it make them look petty trying to seek those funds, or progressive, trying to seek money that's out there that technically is rightfully theirs? Well,
the city has sought compensation for other user fees and funds in the past. If you have a string of parking tickets in Chicago or Big Rapids or anywhere else, I can guarantee you that the next time you apply for an auto loan, if you haven't paid all your outstanding violations, you're probably not going to get an auto loan. Is that petty? I'm sure I'd consider it petty if I was the individual who was involved, but if I'm the taxpayer wondering what happened to those funds and why I'm paying for them when I haven't been in any accidents and haven't eluded the law or anything, I might wonder if it wasn't petty of somebody to take off of paying their fair share.
Tom, you've lived in the city for a good long while here. You've been involved in many aspects of the community, from the hospital to city government, and certainly those jobs, you would have worked with Ferris State University at some point. Having lived here for some time, how would you describe the current state of town-gown relations? In a historical sense, do you think they're getting better? Are they about the same? Are they worse? What's your opinion?
Well, in terms of willingness to work together on projects at an administrative level, I think they're as good as they've ever been. Of course, I haven't been involved in a couple of years, but in talking to Mr. Sobers and others at the city, I think they're quite satisfied that the university is really working to remain an active partner in the growth of the area. In terms of relationships between those of us who live in the community and those who reside at Ferris, I think right now things are also quite good. Having not always been
Well, you live in one of
quite
those
so
neighborhoods.
equitable. I live in a student
Right.
neighborhood, and quite frankly, the quality of life there is dependent on the behavior of people like me, but also the behavior of the people who live in the neighborhood, and to a great extent, the people from whom they rent and obtain property rights. So when everything's working together, it's a pretty nice, pleasant place to be in right now. I guess I'd characterize it that way. It has not always been so, and I imagine that goes up and down. In 40 years, I've seen it go up and down, including when I was 19 and living here. So, I guess the only other thing I would say is there's always an opportunity when you have an entity the size of the university with the impact that it has here and has had. I think it's important to look at the history, and the history of Ferris State University really resides in the business community in Big Rapids. When they had the big fire in the early 50s and the university was really kind of reeling, it was in part the influence sought by business community here, based on their knowledge of how important the university was, that kept it afloat, got the state involved, turned it into a state college, and helped to make it what it is today, along with the hard work of lots of other people. So it's been a mutual effort for a long, long time, and I think that's maybe the best way to look at it. Everybody holds up their end, things go along pretty well.
I got one last question. I'm very interested in your response here, because you do have prior experience, so I think you give us a really good answer on this. If we were to allow you to focus the city manager and city resources on one issue or one project, what would that be? And tell us why it's important to you.
Well, I'll give you a typical political answer. You can't do that because there's more than one project going on. There are several things that we really need. The two things we need most to do immediately that would impact the quality of life for people in the community and their satisfaction with services would be to seek and employ the best possible treasurer and the best possible public safety director that we can. Those are the two number one jobs this year that are going to make a difference in how people react and see the city and have the service component be there when they need it. Attention to infrastructure is extremely important. There are a number of things that could be done. I think I already mentioned. We could use a generalized transportation plan. We could look at some improved profiles. Complete streets is a catchphrase you might be familiar with. We should probably have a resolution that allows this to go forward so that when grant money becomes available and state money becomes available, we can improve our roads and stay consistent. I think there's an opportunity to develop the airport beyond what it has been right now. There's plenty of land out there, fertile for development that would be related to transportation, but also to other uses within the community. I think we ought to work harder than we have, it's maybe not quite fair to say it that way, on regional efforts to improve the economy and working relationship. Well, the township, the local immediate townships, yes, and the county, yes. I guess the way I see it, we need to look at what are the regional interests of citizens that reside within our area. And to the extent that the various existing political boundaries will serve that need, then that's what we should focus on. But when those governmental units place us in automatic conflict, I think we need to look for ways to avoid that or skirt that or go beyond that and work instead on issues of commonality. I think that's proven to be kind of challenging in the past, but I think it can be done.
It's a pretty long list for a political answer.
It's the stuff that needs to be done, and to say, well, I just think we ought to, whatever, X, Y, Z, that is my agenda. We should be working on all those things all the time, and I think the irony is we are. And very often that work goes unnoticed because it's either not some big conflagration that attracts a lot of attention, there's not bells and whistles and lights and sirens. A lot of times it's people doing their job the best way they know how, and trying to keep swimming upstream. And I think we've done a pretty good job. I think Steve Sobers has been a fine city manager. Steve Stillwell before him was a fine city manager. So we've got a lot of work that's been done by our appointed officials, and an elected official is a wonderful thing, but it's still somebody who has been elected to office and is available to provide certain kinds of key input. It's very important. But the yeoman work that's done by your appointed officials needs to be correct, needs to be conducted in such a way that it serves the needs of the citizens, and so that in itself is a synergy that needs to be there for everybody.
Okay. We can say today that you can look for Tom Hogenson's name on the ballot in the city election. That will be the only name that you see, so this is not one of the candidates that you can write in. You can just vote in the traditional way. Thanks for joining us today. This is another interview in a series that we're doing to highlight the candidates for City Commission. You can find this and other coverage at www.bigrapidsnews.com.